Two ringleaders of a sex abuse gang in Derby are tonight facing indefinite prison sentences for what the judge called a reign of terror on young schoolgirls in the town. It's the latest in a number of prosecutions that are being held up as evidence that Asian gangs, specifically Pakistani men, represent a particular threat to young British girls today, which is not being confronted due to a misguided sense of political correctness.
Karen's daughter Jane was just 11 when she was befriended by an Asian man 10 years her senior. A friendship which began with gifts and rides in flash cars quickly turned into something very different.
It happened a month and a half ago after it started. She started going missing for 2 and 3 days on end, and then one day she came back, and I'll never forget. She came walking up the road and she was still drugged up, and she'd been taken to Manchester that night and then brought back the next morning.
Karen says Jane, who've changed both their names, had clearly been raped. Soon there were queues of different men coming to call.
A number of men in different cars at different times. They come during the night, they come during the day.
The family decided the only way to protect Jane was to move her abroad. But within weeks of coming back, the abuse started again.
I got a video sent to my phone. 3 Asian men assaulting my daughter. They were calling her white trash. They were calling her a prostitute, saying she was nothing but like a dog.
Hilary Wilmer is the chair of CROP, an organisation set up to help parents of sexually exploited children.
We've been working over the last 7, 8, 9 years with over 400 families. And of those families, mostly in the northwest and the northeast and the Midlands, but not entirely so, 96–97% of those 400 families are white. And in terms of the perpetrators, those gangs are in the vast majority from Pakistani Asian origin.
Others have recently pointed to a series of high-profile prosecutions of Muslim men as evidence. But there are no official statistics.
There is a specific problem which involves Pakistani heritage men, some of some age as well, who target vulnerable young white girls, and we need to get the Pakistani community to think much more clearly about why this is going on and to be more open about the problems that are leading to a number of Pakistani heritage men thinking that it's okay to target white girls in this way. Pakistani heritage girls are off limits, and they are expected to marry a Pakistani girl from Pakistan, typically. So they then seek other avenues, and they see these young women, white girls who are vulnerable, some of them in care, who for sure have not been subject to normal parental support, who they think are easy meat. And then, because they're vulnerable, they ply them with gifts, they give them drugs, and then, of course, they're trapped.
This is such an explosive issue that for years any suggestion that race was a factor at all in the sexual exploitation of children was almost entirely denied.
Mohammed Shafiq, you're someone who's actually taken quite a lot of risks in the past speaking up about this issue. Presumably you welcome Jack Straw's comments.
Well, I think it's important to say tonight that we pay tribute to the bravery of the women and the teenagers who give evidence so that the perpetrators, the evil criminal men are put behind for a very long time. And I think that's very important. But the central issue is this, that it's a sad reality that there are young Pakistani men, 53 in total of which we know, who've been convicted, who've been going around this country, who've been grooming white teenagers under the age of 16 in a horrific way. And I think it is time for the communities of the United Kingdom to stand up against this. There is a perception that some of these young men do not see white girls as equal, as valuable, of high moral standing as they see their own daughters and their own sisters. And I think that's wrong. It's a form of racism that's abhorrent in a civilized society, and that's why I've taken the initiative 2 years ago to speak out against this, against, as you said, so personal risks to me and my family.
Douglas Murray, you've suggested that there was a conspiracy of silence around this issue. You've got Mohammed Shafiq saying that it's abhorrent. You've got Jack Straw speaking up about it. I guess not silent anymore.
Well, I very much hope not, and let's hope that it isn't from tonight onwards. But the fact is, in the past, it very much has been. In 2004, Channel 4 were due to do a documentary, to broadcast a documentary called On the Edge of the City. That also exposed this very story we're talking about tonight. The police asked Channel 4 not to show that documentary. All sorts of other people came in and said Channel 4 mustn't show this, they mustn't investigate this. Muslim leaders said they shouldn't be doing this. The fact is we can't sweep things under the carpet in Britain just because we don't like them. The fact is this case is very shocking to a lot of people because they didn't know this sort of thing was going on, because there has been a wall of silence around it. And I might just add that there is a demonstration of the seriousness of this problem and the unwillingness of people to attack it, to address it, by the very fact that one of your previous guests refers to the fact that his own stance in speaking out against sex gangs in Britain in 2010 is brave. Okay. It is brave. It shouldn't be. Okay, that demonstrates part of the problem.
It seems to be less brave now, though. I mean, there is a point about trying to talk about today rather than the past. Would you accept that we have become less politically correct, if you like, or at least that we seem to have gone past that to address this issue, to talk about it in these terms?
I'd very much hope so, but I mean, I think you can even hear in the way in which Jack Straw talked about it in your interview, and the way in which any politician or indeed commentator will talk about this, that people feel they are treading on eggshells. Modern Britain has all sorts of taboos, unspoken things that people don't want to get involved in case they're accused of all sorts of unpleasant things. And people, for that reason, people are very careful about addressing things like this. And I would hope that people can realise that this is the very beginning of addressing very unpleasant things that are going on. But they have to be more than addressed, they have to be dealt with. Well, political correctness obviously makes it harder. It makes it harder for the police.
But what should they do now if we've got over that?
The thing they do now, among other things, is to do it, as Jack Straw mentioned, for the Pakistani communities of this country, Muslim communities in this country, and other communities, of course it isn't just them, to address this problem among their young men, of the way in which young girls are seen, because that is an endemic problem.
You don't think, Mohammed Shafiq, that there is a cultural issue to be confronted where there's a double standard in the way that men in the Pakistani community, many men, think about white girls relative to other Pakistani girls or girls of Pakistani origin?
It's definitely, I've already said,